If you want to grow like I do, here's some helpful hints. All right, I want to tell you something important about the clay pebbles that I found out in the last couple of months that I've been using them. We're going to talk about cleaning some of our cracky containers, tickle some worms, show you some pea shoots we grew. We're going to talk about the living wall that we've got set up that's more like an ecology project. It's open like a pond. We've got tadpoles turning into frogs, lizards, bees coming to take a drink. It's a more natural experiment in hydroponics. We're still growing some plants in bioplastic. That's fun. And we've got microgreens growing in the wild. All right, let's get to the clay pebbles first. And this is how I clean mine. I go ahead and wash them out. We strain them and I put them in these strainers and I set them on this table. Everywhere in the United States is hot right now. It's 90 degrees in the shade. And this dark table that these are sitting on is over 130. Now, these have actually been sitting out here a few days. I let them go ahead and dry out. If it rains, it rinses them again. I let them dry out and I just let them sit there until they get totally dry. Now, these have been here all afternoon and you can see the top's dry. And I just want to show you, we're going to pull back the top layer and you're going to see that it's still damp underneath. Now, this is why I'm using the clay pebbles. It doesn't wick water, it doesn't soak up water to the top. So you can see the top layer stays dry. What it does is it retains moisture until it gets used. So the top layer, the moisture evaporates off of it, and it takes a lot longer for the ones down below to dry out. Now, when we have these sitting in our bowls, it doesn't wick water up to the top. So if you have too much water in your bowls, you might be getting problems with smelly water or mold, funky stuff like that. But if you keep it down low, the top layer stays dry. And if you just spritz that a little bit, it'll absorb some of that moisture and hold on to it for your plants, and then it'll dry out. So sometimes these take a few days, over a week sometimes to dry out. But this works on the living wall because you can shut the water off and these will retain moisture for a while. Your plants can use them, gives it a little chance for the top layer to dry off. And then when it comes back on, they absorb water and hold it for your plants again. So if you've got more questions on the clay pebbles, go and let me know below and I'll answer it in another video. All right, cleaning the containers. For part of last year, we switched from plastic to glass containers. And I got to tell you, cleaning them, I'm not really fond of washing dishes, but I just put them in a bucket, add a little dish detergent, and a tiny bit of bleach. Sometimes I let it sit for a day or two, and then I wash them off, and they come pretty clean. Now, I got to say, compared to the plastic, this comes out a whole lot cleaner and it's a whole lot easier. But if you're growing a lot, you got a lot of plants, it is a lot of containers to wash. And I just wanted to show you these pea shoots. It's hot outside. We still can grow peas. You can go ahead and grow all types of microgreens. We got this container, I believe, on Amazon. I just looked up microgreen grower, saw a different one. This one was perfect. You don't need any mediums, and you can grow pea shoots like this. They're awesome. So, as hot as it is, and peas liking a cooler environment, we still grow a whole lot of pea shoots. Now, granted, this is indoor in our washroom. It's not climate controlled, so it is still warm in there in the 90s, but it's not sitting out in the sun and over 100 degrees. All right, the living wall. This one we left open on the bottom looks kind of like a pond. We just got these are like leftover plants from other things when we were cleaning out containers. If the plant was a little bit alive, we just kind of stuck the roots in there. If it grew, it grew. We didn't really care about it, but we put them in here and frogs laid eggs. There were tadpoles all over the place. My wife had some in the house. We brought them, tossed them back out here, but the tadpoles are eating the leaves. This is Malabar spinach. It's pretty cool. The Malabar spinach is growing across the bottom. The tomato plant, the roots are reaching down towards the water. So they're coming out of the pouch, out of the felt pouch on the living wall and seeking the water below. And the Malabar spinach has latched onto it because it's a vine and it's looking for something to grab onto. So the Malabar spinach has grown up into the living wall. And the tomato, at the same time, its roots have grown down into the pond looking for more water. And this might look like a mess, but like we said, we're just kind of leaving it, let nature take its course. We put a tiny bit of General Hydroponics Maxi Grow in the beginning when we first put our plants in. And ever since the frogs were in there, we haven't put anything in there. Only thing is my wife throws a little bit of algae wafers for the frogs to eat. And right now we've got the pepper plant. It has a couple of flowers on it. There's even a little pepper starting to grow. The tomato plant's big. It's not setting any fruit right now. It's over 100 degrees, so we're gonna see how it does. Maybe it'll like hang on until it gets cooler. The curly parsley didn't like the setup, but the flat leaf parsley did. And the Greek oregano just is going wild, even with us picking and harvesting off of here a little bit when we need it. It's just growing wild. The amaranth likes it too. So this isn't the best setup right here, but we're trying to let it go and see how far we can let things like let nature take its course and see how things can grow before we do too much. Like I said, I like to take things to extreme, and then you can always say, well, if I do this or I do that or take care of this or change this up a little bit, then maybe you can do a better job. So all in all, this is pretty cool. Plants are growing, wildlife's in there, and we've got a cool sound of a fountain going on. All right, we're still growing plants in the bioplastic cups. These cups are made out of sugar. There's a whole controversy about the compostability of bioplastics and that, and I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but I'd rather have a plastic cup made out of sugar than a plastic cup made out of oil. And right now we're growing plants in it with a little bit of the clay pebbles, a little bit of nutrients, and we've got seashell growing. And this is the soil that we pulled out of what we called Mother Nature's graveyard. It wasn't compost, this was just layered kitchen scraps for over a year. We just kept tossing it out, tossing it out. And then after that year, we tossed a little bit of topsoil on top of it, and then we planted into it. Now we turned that into a fish pond. Our goldfish were getting too big, and my wife wanted a little fish pond, so we took all of this out and just set it here because we're going to use this. We're going to start spreading it around the yard. So this is going to be our compost for the yard. I call it anti-compost because we really didn't do anything to it, but it's full of worms, and we moved it over here. The worms are still in there if you dig down, and my son threw arugula all over it. And arugula has sprouted and it's growing better in here than it did in our hydroponics or other parts of the yard. So if you did something like this, you can go through and thin it out and probably get a couple of big arugula plants out of it. But we keep doing this over and over, and people wonder why, because you can harvest some of this and eat some, but then you can cut it down. And this is just basically a cover crop. And we constantly do this. And that's part of the permaculture. And I'm not waiting till fall and right before winter to just do a cover crop when things aren't growing, planting different things. This is whenever we have spare seeds, whenever there's a bare spot, we just cover it up like this and we let the plants grow. And then we come through and cut them down and just leave them there. They call it chop and drop. And then that energy, the plant sucking up energy from the soil, but it's also taking energy from the sun, converting that into food, and basically we're cutting it and transferring that energy back into the soil, and it's just keeping this process going over and over again. So anyhow, that's just some of the projects we've got going on when it's just really hot outside. I know you guys don't feel like gardening and that very much right now, but this is a time to plan, to watch videos, to learn, think what you might do. You can start getting containers, getting your supplies together, and if you're going to do like us, where you use what you got and use a bunch of recycled materials and things that you're throwing in recycling, save those up. You can grow in them. We're going to be getting some more buckets. If you guys look around right now, you can go to bakeries, you can go to cafeterias and things like that. Usually people wait till spring when they're going to start gardening, and they go around and start asking, and then everyone's grabbing the buckets. Right now, nobody's really doing it. So it's an excellent time to go out and actually ask some of the places. I mean, they're still making donuts, right? So you can go to the bakeries and ask them. They have icing in them. Walmart sells theirs for $1 with the lid on it, or they used to. But go out, find your supplies, get ready. That way, when it starts to cool off, we can all just hit the ground running. All right. You guys get out there, lift, inspire, keep on growing. be the change. We'll catch you next time.